am so excited to be talking to you again. We're going to recap Tuesday's event.
Sure.
Before we get into the weeds, we should always start this with a 101 of what exactly your work is, just because it's so different, it's so unique, easy for people to kind of layer their own interpretations of the work on top of it, which we'll talk about. So give me kind of the 101 of the work that you're doing in Bay
Sure.
City.
The Breaking Bread Village is a nonprofit, and what we do is create space for different views, perspectives, thought, people, backgrounds, cultural experiences to come together and have a conversation.
Yeah, it's I'm just gonna jump in and say it's some of the most important work. The idea that we talk, it seems like we talk about everything, politics, relationships, what men should do, what women should do, what society should do, self-care, like all of these things, but we never really talk about the fundamental ideas of bias. Are you biased? Are you not biased? What does that mean? Is it good? Is it bad? Judgment, empathy, all of these really core to every single human being ideas. But meanwhile, we're running around telling people what to do and all of these things. But it seems like we're missing the most important conversations. And that's why I respect your work so much.
I appreciate that.
You invite, it's not random people. It's talk to me about how you go about selecting who's on the panel.
We're very intentional.
Yes, you are.
And I always say we, because I look at, this is as a group effort. But when I look for people to come on, it is very intentional. I intentionally place people where they are at the table. I intentionally bring the people that are going to come and have the conversation because I really do want to get different points of view. That's just it, because I think that it grows us. And it's very, very intentional.
Because it's not really a conversation if you've got 8 people at a table going,
saying yes.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, I think exactly the same. Because honestly, that tends to be what the internet, social media does to us anyway.
Our society.
So
yeah. It can be a real conversation, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a realistic, everyday life conversation, right? Because we do. A lot of us put ourselves in these pockets in society, and we just stay in those pockets, and it's safe. It feels good. Because who doesn't want to have people say, you are so right all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You just are hitting it on the head. What is it? The nail on the head. You're doing it.
I am right. I am good.
Exactly.
Yes, I am all these things.
It feels great.
Yes,
so
it does feel great.
The part that is a challenge is, how do we coexist in the spaces where everybody will not say yes, right? Or someone may say yes, but yes, and yes, how about this, right? So, it's so many different variants to that, and we have to be able to be emotionally mature enough to be in spaces where someone may say, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is terrible. It makes no sense. And for us to possibly be able to explain it or be okay with them just not receiving what we're sharing.
Yeah. I want to ask you,
Sure.
So you said emotional maturity is important to having these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to transcend our immediate instinct to say, you said I was wrong. I hate you. I feel attacked. I'm done with this. All of these things, like the emotional maturity. How else do you think how else do you think we can enter into these conversations and manage these conversations better, because they are so important, but we don't necessarily have the tools. So other than emotional maturity, what are other tools people need in order to really navigate these difficult conversations?
Just that intellectual humility where we are able to say, maybe that is a possibility. Maybe I learned it. I don't like to say wrong, but just I learned it differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can open my mind to different things, and just being able to have that humility, just to be humble enough to receive what a person is saying and not take it as an attack. And I think that is where those two parts, the emotional intelligence, maturity, the emotional maturity and the intellectual intelligence go together, where it's like, we have to be able to pause and not take everything as a personal attack and say, you know what? Maybe that person is just speaking from their perspective. They're not talking about me necessarily. And if they are, okay, right? I mean, it's some people that can say, Aaron is the best person in the world, and somebody else will say, and I'm talking to third person, oh my God, but I'm saying from that from that person saying it, right? Because I hate when people talk to third person. But someone can say, I'm the best person in the world, and then somebody else experience with me may be like, she's terrible. I don't know. I mean, that's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
And does either one of those make it right or wrong? That person right or wrong? No, it may be their experience, right? So we have to be able to just step back for a second. I mean, we don't pause enough. And so I really try to encourage people to just relax, right? Everything is not an attack.
We talk about intellectual humility, and our very first conversation, you came over to my office and we talked about intellectual humility. I was like, that's the phrase. Like, that's what I've been thinking. I think part of that intellectual humility is one of the definitions people use for wisdom, in that part of wisdom is knowing how much there is that you don't know.
Yeah.
And something that you said on Tuesday really spoke to me about how our current environment is that we all need to be experts in everything. I go on social media and I'm telling people how to parent their kids and how to take care of themselves, and productivity hacks at work, and how to have a better household, and how to have a better relationship at home, and how to grow better grass in my lawn, and how to feed my dog fast. Like, all of these things, like we carry this expectation that we all have to have it all together, and we all have to know everything.
Even though we know we all don't.
Yes.
Like we know that. We know we don't, we know they don't, but we still all play this game. It's so interesting to me to watch.
I think that could be one of the tools in entering into these conversations, is 2 people, 4 people, 8 people on a panel, all together lifting up that shroud and saying, we're going to communicate as if we all could learn something from this moment.
Yeah.
I'm not here to impress you. I'm not here to make you think that I am amazing and smart and charismatic and all of these things. We are here because we all appreciate and understand and want the power that happens with intentional and open conversation.
Yeah, and gathering, right? I mean, we should be able to come together and gather and just be, right? I always tell people just be, just, and I say, be what? Just be, like literally just be, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have to perform. We don't have to show up in some kind of way. And it's interesting because I have so many people that I've asked to come on and be a guest, and their first response is, well, I'm not an expert.
That was my response.
Are you one of the people?
That was one of the people. What was the very first event? What did we talk about?
What did we talk about when you came on? Oh, so societal expectations.
Yeah, societal expectations. And we were texting, and you're like, hey, Phil, I'd really like to have you at my first event. It's about societal expectations. And I ghosted you for like a day or two.
People do that. And I'm like, okay, I know what's going on here.
And I texted you back, and I said, Aaron, I will, because I really...
And you say, I don't know what I have to offer.
And I don't know,
on this subject.
That's exactly what I said. And I'm saying that out loud for all the other folks listening to this who are going to an event, or they might be on the panel. 1,000%, that was me.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to say about it. I've never really thought about it. I'm a little bit scared about saying some of the things I think out loud. And I will tell you that that event for me was very important in a lot of ways. Like, one of the trails I meandered down was specific to men's mental health.
Yeah.
And I had never really said what I thought about that subject out loud.
Yeah.
And it's, to me, such an important subject, and we won't get into all the nitty-gritty of it today, but I just want to communicate that to you, is that I went into that conversation going, I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't want to say something to get me in trouble. I want to say something that makes me sound smart, because people know who I am, and they're expecting things of me and all of these things. But personally, it was an incredible experience.
Awesome. I'm happy about that. I really am. I as soon as people say, I'm saying, You don't have to be an expert. None of us are experts. As much as
Yes.
we have expertise sometimes in different things, right? But we're not experts on life. We're not experts on how to be parents or how to be a good friend. You know, we trial and error. You know,
Yeah.
we try our best.
Yep.
We have good intentions most times, and sometimes we miss the mark. And that's the beauty of gathering and talking about that, because now somebody else knows that, oh, I struggle with that too. You know,
Yep.
oh, I don't have to try to pretend to be perfect, even though we all know we're not perfect. I can just kind of be. And it just gives people permission to show up and exist without all the hoopla,
Yeah.
right?
That was something that Megan Saman said. She was on the panel, president and CEO of the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. She
Yeah.
said, we're all learning, we're all evolving.
We are.
And this is going to get me fired up. Like, how much better and
Yeah.
how much easier and how much happier and how much more rewarding and fulfilling would this world be if all of us said, we're all in this together. Life is hard. We're figuring it out. Let's try to help each other. Let's approach each other with this idea that we are not perfect, that we're all learning, we're all evolving, we all have something to gain from having these conversations and relationships and all of these things. I mean, we could wake up tomorrow and make that choice and immediately change the entire world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take a second before we get into some specific things about Tuesday.
Yeah.
Before the event, we were talking back and forth about one of the misconceptions about this work and these
Yeah.
events that you're doing is, quote, that it's just another DEI thing.
Yes.
Can you speak to that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, people that I reach out to, that's what they think, that, you know, especially because of the words, right, of some of the topics where you have bias, you have judgment, you have empathy, you have these words that are kind of triggering right now, or that have become weaponized. So when people see those and they see me and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is just DEI,
Yeah,
right?
I know what this is.
Yes, it's like some kind of bait and switch, right?
Yep.
And people think that I want to have them on to kind of ambush or exploit something,
Yeah,
or
trap them.
Yeah, and
I'm
it's
here to
like,
make you feel dumb.
yes, and bad about looking how you are, being who you are, and I just want to shake them and say no, like a grandmother shake, you know, like wake up here, listen to me, look at my eyes, because it's nothing like that. It would never be anything like that. I wouldn't. That's not even my vibe,
Yeah,
you know.
right.
I have to explain to them that no, I want you to truly just be yourself. I want to talk to you. I want to hear from you, because again, that's how we grow. So yes, I have people that think that it is just DEI. And like I said Tuesday, I live that,
Yeah.
right? I don't have to say it. I am it. I believe in diversity. I believe in equity, and I believe in including people. And as I said before, I believe that people have changed what the word inclusion means and looks like. And I feel like I'm kind of trying to reclaim what the word actually means,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so I have to really express to people what we're doing in that space, and it's not just another DEI thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was something that I loved you talking about on Tuesday, because DEI did come up,
Yeah.
and you didn't speak against it. Like
Yeah.
you weren't like, yeah, or you didn't speak for it or anything like that. You were just like, I live diversity
Yeah.
beyond the phrase, beyond the political baggage, beyond whatever you think.
Before it became popular
Before
to
it
say
became
it.
popular, like,
Yeah.
why isn't diversity, equity, inclusion just a fundamental element of being a good human? You said something like, we should all just be nice humans.
Yes.
And I love that, because it just distilled all of the nonsense that we sometimes get into and all the complications
We
and all.
overcomplicate
We
it.
overcome. Like, why don't we just be good people?
Just be good people, like,
Yeah.
you know, and to be totally transparent. And of course, when you only have an hour or so to talk about something, well, many things, it's hard to really expand on the one thing, right? And so sometimes for me in spaces, when people start bringing up DEI, 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 and if I'm like the only person in the room that kind of looks like me, people look to me as the spokesperson for it.
Yes.
And it's like,
Aaron, tell us about diversity, you Black woman, you.
how do you want to be included, you know? And it's like, just be a good person. We don't have to, you know, and so people do kind of get, I guess, maybe confused on my stand on DEI. And it's not that I'm against it. And it's not that I'm necessarily for it in certain spaces, if that makes sense. And I want to make sure I'm using my words properly so people don't misconstrue it. Because I feel like right now it is very trendy. It looks good to say it, right? You know, all these universities and organizations are putting it up on their websites, and they get to kind of like check this box and say, we have a department now, or we have someone that's representing this. And in some spaces, it's not genuine. So if you're doing it, for me, you're not wrong if you're doing it.
Yep.
But if you're just saying you're doing it, but you're not, then just don't, right?
Yep.
Don't talk about it. Don't put up, banners about it. Don't have the beautiful pictures of, mixed family on your website when really that's not what you're about. You know what I mean?
I love that you say that, because in that part of the conversation, there's a great back and forth between like you and Megan. Where that's what you said. And she was like, well, we are not performative at the Chamber of Commerce. Like, we are doing those things.
Right.
And I love that, because it's evidence that when people are performative, it hurts everybody. It hurts the people that are doing the work, because you have people doing the work. You have people saying, you know what? It took 140 years for an organization to have a woman president, to have a Black CEO, all of these things. We have a history of races, all of these things. Like, we are doing the work because we see that we can get better. Meanwhile, you have other organizations being performative, and then they hurt the work being done. They look at people look at organizations that are doing good work and saying, well, that's just performative.
Well, and the beauty of that is that when you, from a person coming from my perspective, I can those are two different things, right? I can see the company that's performative, and I can see the company that's actually doing the work. And I can say, you are doing great, and you need to just stop.
Yep.
You need to maybe revisit this.
And that is such the downside of having a program like DEI, because it's such
lumped in together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we understand each other, so I'm going with it.
Please.
Like, I'm not going to try to clarify things. Like, the DEI umbrella can have so much baggage and so much interpretation, and are doing it or not doing it on all of these things, and in turn people get hurt, and the work doesn't get done, and the world doesn't get better, and our lives get worse, and all of these things, because we're effectively trying to implement a program when, like you said, we should just say, how can we be good humans? How can we do better? How
within
can we
that
evolve?
organization?
Yes. Yep.
Train your people within the organization.
Yep.
And so that's where I was trying to go with it. And I love healthy debate. I'm naturally a debater. Like, I can sit there and debate all day, and I walk away and we go eat a pizza together and chill out.
I love how that freaks people out.
It does. And I really have to watch that, because I know, and I tell people all the time, I'm a tall woman. I kind of, when I get excited, my hands start moving, and my face kind of like does this thing. And really, I'm like amped up. I'm like, let's go, because this is exciting. That truly like fuels me and drives me to have healthy dialogue, especially like a back and forth, exchanging ideas. And I really get charged. But it looks like I'm like,
But I love that moment between like you and Megan, because you have the panel in the front of the room, you have the audience watching,
Yeah.
you have like you asking a question, somebody responds, you have a question, somebody responds. But in that moment, it was like we got front row seats to like a great example of what this work is. Like
Yeah.
we're talking through this, like I'm saying a thing and then she says something else and then I say this thing and she feels like, well, we're not this. And you're saying, well, let me clarify. And it was just beautiful.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
And it's funny because her and I, of course, talked after,
Yeah.
and we both were like, "Oh, that was great."
Yes.
And I said, "I know, but people see things sometimes and they misconstrue it, especially between two women, right?
Yep.
It looks like you're
Yep.
about to start clawing at each other, and it's like, of course not. I actually like love it, and
Yep.
and again, too, you know, it's just not enough time to really clearly sometimes effectively share what you're thinking
Right.
and all the dynamics to it, like all the different parts to it. Because what happens, and it kind of is what you touched on earlier, is that people perform all the time. That's
Mhm.
not even the core of it for me. But what happens when you are performing, especially on a level of like an organization, a university, whatever it is, people do get hurt.
Yeah.
You hire someone, like say for instance, you hire someone just because they fit this checklist of what it looks like to be diverse, right? And you bring this person in, it looks good, you put their picture up on the website, they look like diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? They don't know what the hell they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing.
Yep.
That happens. It's happening. I read articles all the time of these people they bring in, and it's like just to fit this check. And it sounds good, it looks good, but then what happens is that, especially if in a university, people are impacted by that.
You gave the example at the talk of a local organization hiring somebody to check that box. They came in, they're on fire. They're like, I believe in this mission. We're gonna do great work, but they weren't supported by the organization, and so then
By the people that hired
by
them.
the people that hire them, because they're like, hey, go take care of that thing for us while we go do the thing that we've always been doing.
Go sit in that office.
Yeah.
Look great.
Yep.
Answer phone calls. But
And
go
then
ahead.
and then you said like 2 years later they left that position.
Yeah.
And in that moment I felt, as somebody who takes their work seriously,
Sure.
what those 2 years must have been for that person.
It was hell. It was hell.
Yeah.
It was hell. And that's a quote.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so it was terrible because it's like, you know, I don't even know an example. I mean, someone saying, I'm going to take you to Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
You're excited. You get all your stuff. You get your Mickey ears or something. I don't know. You go down to Disneyland, but then they make you stay in the hotel the whole time.
Yeah.
You don't actually get to enjoy Disneyland,
Yeah.
but they got to say, I took you to Disneyland, you know? And I just made that up, so I don't know if it makes sense or not. But
No, it makes perfect sense. Like,
Okay.
imagine never going to Disneyland,
yes,
seeing everybody go, have the time of their life.
Yes.
You waited your entire life, and then you finally get the chance to, like, here's
Yeah.
a week in the one place I've wanted to go on this earth. And
I'm
then,
going to pay your way.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring you to it.
And then
Yeah.
they pull the carpet right out from underneath you and say, you know what? You stay here. Do whatever it is you do.
Yeah.
We're going to go have fun over here. And, like, it's just...
And you can watch it
Yeah.
from the room. And that is disheartening, is disingenuous.
Yep.
It's gross to me when people just do things for optics. And that's across the board, right? And I know because we touched on what diversity is. And diversity, of course, is beyond color, right? It's beyond all of that stuff. There's so many different things that that make something diverse. Because I tell people all the time that if I have a panel of, 6 middle-aged white men, it could still be a diverse table
Yes.
because of their background.
Yes.
One could have, I don't know, grew up impoverished, right? Somebody else with a lot of, things in
Yep.
life. So diversity looks so much different than what we sometimes think, but we are visual people. And so I just did a talk about this the other day about diversity. And of course, by definition, even Midland is a diverse community based on the definition. But most of us are visual. So when you move to a new town and you say, is this town diverse? They're not talking about the definition of diversity. They're talking about what they can see.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So even though diversity means different things, people still are visual people, and they want to make sure what they're seeing aligns with what they think it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we're visual people, and then one of the things I love about these events that you do is that yes, there's a panel, but then the microphone gets passed around the audience because people are thinking stuff. They're, we're sitting there and people are saying stuff and like, that makes me a little uncomfortable, or I have a thought about this. And so then you pass this microphone around the audience for folks to say something. And one of the things I thought of in regards to bias and specifically implicit bias is I think it was 2005. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called Blink, which is all about our subconscious reactions to things.
Yeah.
And there's a test called the I think it's IAD test, like the implicit assessment something.
Yeah.
And I don't entirely remember the dynamics of the test, but it basically has to do with you sit in front of the screen and they show you different images, and based on, you have to respond to the images in two ways, and based on like your reaction time to the image, they can gauge whether or not you are biased towards one thing or another. Like you fear that, but you love that, or whatever. So, which is interesting because we like to carry ourselves like, I am not biased.
Yeah.
Etc. So Malcolm Gladwell took the test. And the test found that he was biased towards white people and against black people, which was interesting because his mom is black and his father is white. He's biracial. So he's going into this test saying like, I love everybody.
Right, because,
why would I not?
Yeah.
Like, why would I not? And what at the end of the test, they were like, well, you're biased towards white people. And so he started thinking like, well, why is this? Like, I grew up in a family that obviously is inclusive, that loves everybody. Why am I biased towards white people? And one of the points that he said is that we do not exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Our environment, whether we are conscious of it or not, is teaching us how to perceive the world.
Yes.
So when I scroll social media and I see image after image of XYZ, or I see news that says 17 killed in this city over and over and over again, even if I don't consciously acknowledge that, my brain goes, oh, you should be afraid of Chicago.
I was just about to say Chicago. Yeah, people, yeah.
You should be afraid, locally, you should be afraid of Saginaw.
Yes, yeah.
You should do that. Now,
everybody's rich in Midland, right?
And everybody's rich in Midland.
Yeah.
Like, I may not consciously think that, but that implicit part of my brain is going, be afraid of that. Don't talk to that person. Make sure you lock your doors here, but it's okay if you don't lock your doors here. And
which is even wrong. And that's the part people don't realize, that the bias and the judgment goes both ways. Just like saying everybody in Midland is rich, that's also something that's harmful to think that, right? Because you think, oh, well, they don't need resources there, or they don't need this there because everybody already has it. And that's not, it's not true.
It's not, absolutely not true.
Yeah.
You think like Midland, a very substantial ALICE population. So asset limited, income constrained. So you're not poverty level, but you're trying to make ends meet. Bay City, 47% ALICE population or under. And when you hear those percentages for the first time, it just blows people's minds. Like, I never would have guessed, because we have this implicit perception because of the environment and what we see on social media and all of these things. And that's what I loved about the beginning of the conversation. There was something said like, we all judge, but how we react to that judgment is the important thing.
Yes.
Can you talk to me about that?
Yes, because when I go around and talk about this, I like to just call it what it is. We all judge, right? We do. I mean, we look at people, we size them up, we have thoughts about them just by looking at them. And so I always challenge people to think about what you do with that judgment, right? What do you do after you've kind of presume something about that person? Do you lean into that and say, well, maybe I want to know more to see, am I right? Am I wrong? You know, am I somewhere in between? Or do I stay away from that person because I've already assumed something about them and then just kind of, say, I don't want anything to do with them. So it's what we do with the judgment. It's that after part. It's not the judgment. I mean, because we all do it. And for people that say they don't, it's just not real. I mean, we our brains do it before we think about it.
Yes.
It just happens. And then it's like, wait a minute, I don't know. I've walked into rooms and, based on how people dress, you could think they're all well off.
Yep.
And some people just have some good suits
Yep.
to cover up. Yeah.
Yes, I love this because it's the easy answer to say, I don't judge people.
Yeah.
But I think the true answer is exactly what you're saying. We all do. I think there's an inherent perception that when you say the word judge,
Yeah.
it's automatically bad.
It's a negative.
It's a negative thing.
Yes.
When I think of maybe a different word, and this is kind of messy, like you evaluate.
Yeah.
My friend Jeff Sigler from Revitalize or Die out in Pittsburgh, he writes about communities and how communities can fix themselves and apathy and pride and all of those things. And I remember something he said to me once is like the phrase, "You can't judge a book by its cover." And something he said, it was like, no, absolutely, we all judge books by its cover. That's why people spend a lot of money getting the right book design. That's why we have new paint on our houses. That's why we have nice clothes, all of these things. It's something that is inherent in every human being, because when I walk into a room, I need to understand the room. I need to understand how I interact.
Be aware of it.
Be
Observe
aware.
it. Yes.
Like, am I in danger? Am I not? Is that
Yes.
person friendly? Are they not? And so that's something in our brain that is always going to happen in every single situation.
We judge a book. That's why we pick the book.
That's why we pick the book.
That's why we pick the book.
Yeah.
We judge it by how it looks, by, how it feels, how it, the title. That's why.
Yep.
And so to say we don't is just.
Yep. That's why expensive bottles of wine sell better than cheap bottles of wine. You can take the exact same wine,
Yep.
put it in a bottle. Label is exactly the same. You price one at $11 and you price one at $57.
Yeah.
Which bottle is going to taste better? The $57 bottle of wine.
And you'll convince yourself that they taste different and one tastes better.
Yep.
And that's why people spend so much money on marketing, right?
Yep.
And people to do their PR and all that stuff, because it is important.
Yep.
But again, it's what you do with it after,
Yes.
right? When you're dealing with people, what are you going to do with it after?
So along with that, talking about the implicit bias, I wanted to follow up with, so what that means is that as we're scrolling social media, we have to do it in a more mindful way.
Yeah.
As we're talking with people, as we're consuming other forms of media, we have to understand that what we surround ourselves with influences how we think, whether we're aware of it or not.
Yeah, it shapes our world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're scrolling incessantly negative news.
Yes.
You can be the most positive person in the world, but sooner or later, you turn into the person that's like, why are we still here? This world, this earth, that we ruined it.
I think. I mean, if most people are honest, I think people go through that where it's like, well, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point of doing anything if it's just going to be, destruction and devastation and all those things? And yes. So, and then too, I always like to look at that other part of it too, is that as you scroll social media, not only are you taking in all that negative, but you're taking in some of that, false positivity, right? When you think that, if I just do this, my life will just be perfect like theirs. And it's just not the case. That person literally may have fought within themselves to even get up and put on that makeup, do their hair, do that little 5-minute or 30-second clip to show you, to make life look like it's so grand, when really they're struggling, right? So it works both ways, where we can have this either false positivity or this even false negativity, right? You look at something so much like about Chicago, and you would think there's no place to go in Chicago of value, right? I mean, seriously, like Detroit. You say Detroit, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's so many beautiful things coming out of Detroit and Chicago.
It's amazing.
Right? I mean, Saginaw. It's so many things. Midland, Bay City. I mean, people are doing things. And then there's some people who aren't. And it's okay for us to acknowledge both and say,
Yes.
there are some people doing great and some people that are, struggling a bit.
Yeah, I love that you said it's great for us to acknowledge both, because we and I'm not I won't get into the physiology of it. We have something in our brain that biases us towards believing that negative news is true
Yeah.
and that positive news is propaganda.
Yes.
And that's exactly the space that I live in with my work.
Yeah.
It's positive stories about people, they are true, but the criticism towards me and what I do is that it's propaganda, it's whitewashing, you're trying to cover the trail of people that are doing nefarious things.
Or I'm just highlighting somebody that's doing something great.
Right.
Ugh.
Right. And so I love the idea that you're saying, like, we can talk about bad things and good things.
Yeah.
Because I do want to say there is an insidious danger to only talking about good things.
Yes.
Only talking about the things you do well, the things that your community does well, because now you're blind to harm that you're causing.
Yeah.
Challenges that you have to overcome, all of those things. And so there is an insidious danger to never talking about bad things. And so we have to be able to talk about both.
We have to have that balance. And you need people, some people really thrive in speaking about negativity.
Yep.
And they don't mind talking about it. They're already talking about it. Why do I need to talk about it? Why
Yes.
can't I talk about this? And
Yep.
then we kind of maybe balance each other out, you
And
know?
that's why the stories that I do are all positive. It's
Yeah.
not the rose-colored glasses. It's trying to balance that scale. If we have 5,000 people in a community every day on Facebook and in the comment section talking about everybody that's doing something wrong, everybody that we should be skeptical of, everybody who's a grifter, all of those things, the only way that we even stand a chance at balancing that scale is by being relentlessly supportive of the people who are doing good work.
That are grinding every day
Every
to
single
make
day.
this community better.
Yep.
And why not highlight somebody that has a small mom and pop store that, in today's economy could be on the verge of not existing.
Right.
If people don't know about the good that they're doing. So once people hear about it through the work that you do and with, other people that do similar work, right?
Yep.
They're able to go and say, "What?" Because this place is you've highlighted. I said, "Oh, I didn't even know that place existed."
Mhm.
Right? Because I have, I think we all have our places we go to, and we just, the food is good all the time. I know it's gonna be good. I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
So sometimes I, don't know about the other places. So it's good for us to highlight the good that people are doing. People need, and some people need just that validation, right? Like, I'm doing good out here. They may feel it, but sometimes it's nice to have someone write it up and say, you are doing good work, right? And to just kind of validate that.
I've probably talked about this before. Oprah Winfrey interviewed 37,000 people, some crazy number over the course of her career. Somebody asked her if they all had something in common, and she said that they did, that we all have the same desire. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, and we want to feel important.
Yeah.
Can we take a second, just so people don't walk away from this conversation going, well, Phil and Aaron started this conversation saying we shouldn't act like experts in everything, and that we have it all together. Can we take a second? You started off. I don't think you started off Tuesday, but you said something in the conversation. Everybody say something or talk about a time when you judged someone wrongly.
Yeah.
Can we do that right now? Can you tell me a time that you have judged somebody wrongly?
I think I shared it that night. I believe Tuesday. I mean, this is something that, and I probably have tons of stories, right, where I could share, but this one in particular sticks with me because it was a pivotal moment for me to realize that I had judged someone. This was like one of the first moments that I realized that I had done it. And so over 20 years ago, I've been in this area for 20 years. So I was still in Cincinnati, Ohio. And again, this is back when, everybody didn't have cell phones. We were using MapQuest papers. And I was driving my car by myself. And 20 years ago, I was like in my 20s, right? And I'm driving and my car breaks down. And it's in a spot where it's not like high traffic. So I'm kind of by myself. What do? Do I walk to the closest place? Where's the closest place? And so all this is going through my mind as I'm sitting there, and I couldn't call anybody. And this gentleman pulls up, and he's in his pickup truck, and he has this look, and I won't describe the look, but he had a look of people that I was taught that didn't like people that had my look.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll put it that way. And it's so interesting, and I have to give a little bit of a backstory, because being in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I was driving was right over the bridge, and right over the bridge is Kentucky, Covington, Kentucky.
Mhm.
And so we were always taught, I was taught, I won't speak for everybody, but a lot of people within my community was taught that, Kentucky was not our friend in regards to race relations. And just to give another little part, every year for MLK, they would have this big, huge parade and celebration downtown Cincinnati on Fountain Square. And the Klan would show up, like literally on horses. Like they
Wow.
literally would come on horses. And it was I just remember that, like, oh my goodness, they like literally roll over here to be able to,
Yeah.
whatever. And so that was my growing up, right? And so I'm saying all that to say is that, our experiences shape our perception,
Yes.
right? And so, and that's not an excuse, it's just a reality. And so when I stopped side of the road, I remember, this pickup truck, loud, pulls up behind me, and I'm instantly nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my God. Not to mention the fact I'm obsessed with crime shows. I've always been. So everybody is like a potential killer to me. So that's a whole nother thing. I don't
Yeah.
care what you look like.
Every noise in the house is a killer.
Yes, it's like, especially when I'm by
Somebody's
myself.
standing outside
Oh,
of
yeah.
every window.
Oh yeah, I am that person that I watch on the show. So like, this is happening. So anyway, he pulls up, and I'm instantly kind of like, oh my God, what should I do? How do I defend myself? In this moment, I'm a female, can all this stuff goes through my mind. And I remember he gets out the truck, and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? Nobody was driving by, nothing. So if I needed to say help, whatever. And he comes up, and he stands next to the window. And that was, the car you had to like widen out the window. So I did just a little bit, and I looked, and I didn't say, yes. I was like, yes. I kind of had a little bit of a,
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna pretend at least that I can maybe do something if
Yeah.
I need to, right?
yeah.
And so I went into like a survival mind, and he like so softly, he was so soft about it and so genuine. And he goes, "Do you need help?" And I remember I instantly felt like I don't know, I just felt like crap. Like, all this time, and even though it wasn't a lot of time, so much goes through your mind in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I judged him. And then I asked myself, is it ever healthy to judge, right? Your surroundings and your, maybe,
Yeah.
right? But again, what did I do with that judgment after, right? So I judged him. I definitely did. He showed me that he was not a threat. He genuinely wanted to help me. I allowed him to help me. I could have stood on that like, no, I'm good,
Yeah.
even though, because you look like how you look, and I'm not supposed to talk to you. For what? I needed help. He was offering help, and he helped me. I was able to get outside the road, but I definitely judged him. And I have tons of stories about not just black and white issues, but just where I prejudged, right?
Right.
Unfairly.
I was gonna tell the story about my initial perceptions of a community of
Yeah.
specifically here of Saginaw.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna challenge myself because this popped into my brain. I was doing a project for a credit union. They're celebrating an anniversary, and they wanted to. Credit unions are all about people and community, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's one of their principles is that we're here for the community. So they wanted to celebrate their people and their members. So we got together this list of 30 members and employees who they wanted me to talk to. So I was sending emails and setting up the interviews and whatnot. And I sent an email to this woman, and she sent me back like the most, I thought,
Yeah.
terse and annoyed and confrontational email.
Mhm.
Like, here I am, this guy, I'm trying to make you look good. I'm hearing positivity, and like, you seem like a terrible person, like based on
Right.
this email. So
Yeah.
like I took a couple minutes because I wanted to say some things, and calmed down a little bit, and I responded, and I said, "Can't wait to talk to you tomorrow." I mean, I definitely could have waited. I could have, like, in that moment, I was like, I hope she's a no-show or whatever. So, it was a Zoom interview. So I log on to Zoom, and it's 3:00, and I'm hoping she knows shows. And then it says, like, I'll call her Sandra.
Yeah.
Sandra has entered the waiting room. I'm like, oh crap. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I'm going, okay, this interview, it's gonna be 4 minutes long. I'm gonna just pound out these questions and hang up with her because I don't have time for this today.
Yeah.
Out of the 30 interviews, hers was the best. We talked about everything. We talked about her mental health challenges. We talked about how the credit union helped her. We talked about how her daughter went into debt, made bad choices, and the credit union helped her. And so what they did was, when they got her daughter out of this mess and got her on the right track, and everybody's feeling good, all of them are sitting in this room, mom, daughter, credit union employee, just sobbing because of how hard life would have been had they not stepped in.
Yeah.
And just a beautiful story. Mom and daughter brought the credit union balloons and snacks to say thank you.
Yeah.
And we got to the end of the interview, and I thanked her. I was like, this was really an incredible conversation. And then she turns the tables on me, and she goes, I just want to thank you for listening to me and for really just this conversation, because I haven't been able to really talk to people about this in this way. And then we hang up. She immediately sends an email to the CEO who hired me, talking about me, complimented me, said how amazing it was, et cetera, et cetera. Can't wait to see the story. The end.
Yeah.
And I, just like you, crawled into my little hole with my tail between my legs.
Crap, yeah.
It was such a great reminder to me that, like, you got to meet people where they're at.
You don't know what people are going through.
You don't know what they're going through. You don't know if your perception is messed up. Maybe I was having a bad day, and I saw those words, and I filled in every single blank, and I was like, I know exactly what kind of person you are. And that was my fault. That was my mistake. I shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. I have so many moments like that I could probably think about, as an adult, where reacted, right? I really try these days to pause a lot. I say that all the time, but I really do try to do that, where I just pause, because I know for myself, I have to be clear sometimes, because I'm doing 15 different things, right?
Yep.
At one time, somebody sends me an email or a text, and I'll say yes, or it's very kind of short, and it's not intended to be, short with them.
Yep.
It's just that I really am trying to manage life in this moment. Yep. And I know you really need this answer right now, so I can expand later. But right now, this is all I have for you.
Yep.
And I mean it in the most, sincere way, but I know how I can come across. So a lot of times in those moments, I will call people, or I will try to meet with them if I feel like it's better to have that person-to-person conversation, because things get misconstrued in email, text, and we sometimes just have a hard day. And when you're multitasking and trying to complete things, it can come across a certain way.
I love that kind of following up with somebody and saying, like, hey, I just want to let you know.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, I just want to let you know I was in a rush. My medication was wearing off. Like, I was hungry and angry, or I just got off a really bad phone call. I got fired from a job or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to make sure, like, that I should have talked to you longer, but didn't, or I couldn't talk to you more as much as I wanted to. I just want to make sure we're good.
And that's where emotional maturity comes in, for us to be able to recognize and be aware of our own shortcomings at times, right? Or how us just being who we are can be misconstrued, right?
Yeah.
So I follow up all the time. I tell people all the
Yeah.
time, like, I have more time to talk to you now. Earlier, I didn't have much time, but I wanted to get you the information that you needed.
Yeah.
But now I'm like present.
Yeah.
And so let's talk a little bit more. And yeah.
I think doing that is, and let's lump in apologizing.
Yeah.
Saying that you're sorry.
Yes.
Having that conversation, repairing a relationship, bringing them a fruit basket or some flowers.
Yeah.
Like that act is a gift to yourself.
Yes.
And I think it's a gift to the other person more than the flowers, more than saying I'm sorry. But what it does, I think, is it signals to the person that it's okay for them to also be imperfect in this relationship.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
I love you.
Mhm.
And what that means is that when you screw up, when you don't text me right away, when you don't text me for 6 months, when you don't do all of these things, like, we're good. It might hurt my feelings. I might feel a little bit jilted, but I'm not going to hold that against you because we have the kind of relationship that understands that we are human,
Yeah.
that we both love each other, and that we're imperfect. And what that means is that we express that love in imperfect ways. And I
Yeah.
think that is such an incredible gift. I mean, you think about your best friend from high school.
Yeah.
Send him a text message after 7 years, and you're picking up where you
Oh,
left
yeah.
off. Joe
yeah.
Stewart, my friend Joe Stewart. I want to tell you this: like, I've been a terrible friend to Joe Stewart. Joe is one of the most important people in my life. I don't see him very often. I don't talk to him very often. I stood him up for literally 13 months for a lunch date.
Mm.
They're like, hey, we got to get together for lunch. Hey, we got to get together for lunch. I was on the phone with him once and I said, man, we really got to get together for lunch soon. And he called me out. He was like, we are not getting together.
I did that to somebody the other day.
Yeah, he's like, like, we're not getting together. You've
Yeah.
been telling me that for 12 months. And
Yeah.
then
Mm-hmm.
3 weeks ago, he sent me a message. He's like, hey, I'm going to be in Saginaw tomorrow. And I was like, I'm going to be in Saginaw tomorrow too. Have you ever been in Fralia's for lunch? And he said, no. I said, we're doing it. We talked for 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
There was it wasn't weird because I was a terrible friend. It wasn't like, okay, Phil, like, it wasn't weird or awkward. Like, we talked for 4 straight hours and
Yeah.
it was amazing.
You showed each other grace.
We showed each other grace.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. It's to me sometimes, and I try not to make it scientist, but it's like some things are just so simple.
Mm-hmm.
Just, what you want, give, right? What you want to receive,
Yep.
you give. It's just that simple to me. So if you know that in your heart, you've thought about Joe, right?
Mhm.
You've thought
Yes.
about him. He's crossed your mind
Yeah.
at 2 a.m. sometimes.
Every single day, every other day, I'm thinking, man, I gotta be a better friend to Joe. I gotta
No,
be a
so
better friend to Joe.
that's what I'm saying. You thought about him. You know that he's on your heart. You
Yep.
know you're not trying to be malicious. Things happen, right? And I know for myself, I have every intention. I'll think about someone, have every intention to text, every intention,
Yeah.
and lose that thing. That thought will be gone. And I'm like, oh man. Then when I think about it again, I'm like, shoot, why didn't I? Then you feel bad,
Yeah.
because you should have done it then and
Yeah.
you didn't. And I'll just tell them, look, I thought about you for the last 6 weeks.
Yep.
And I promise you, I would go to text and then not,
Yep.
and no excuses. I just didn't, right?
Yep.
And but I love you, and and we were able to have that conversation. So it's okay for us to be honest. And I think that the more we're transparent and honest with ourselves and vulnerable within ourselves, other people will do that as well, right? They'll, like you said, give them permission to also do that and say, you know what, I thought about you too and didn't call. Yeah.
Well,
Well, I'm happy that you and Joe had lunch.
yes. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's awesome.
It was amazing for me. I hope it was amazing for you, Joe.
I'm
Stewart.
sure Joe. I'm sure Joe appreciated it.
Yeah, it was just really, really good.
Yeah.
It was good for me, in lots of ways, but in one of the most important, that I felt like I screwed up,
Yeah, we do.
but it was okay.
We do it. We
Yeah.
do it. It's. I mean, we are all living full lives. And it's really hard to get everybody in there
Yeah.
all the time,
Right.
right? And so it's difficult. So I think the fact that you made time, was it today?
No,
Or the
it
other
was,
day
it was,
or
it
whenever it
was 3
was.
weeks ago. Yeah.
3
Yep.
weeks ago
Yep.
to do it. I mean, that probably meant the world to Joe, and I'm sure it meant the world to yourself as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lady that's been telling me that for a year. You know, every time I see her, she goes, "Let's have coffee, let's go." And I finally told her, I said, "We are not having coffee," and that's okay. That is okay. If we happen to ever see each other
Yeah.
out somewhere
Yeah.
in a coffee shop together,
Yeah.
please come sit with me, or
Yeah.
I'll come sit with you.
Yeah, just I would love to have coffee with you
Right.
whenever that happens.
Exactly.
Like wipe the slate clean.
Yes.
You are absolved of your
You don't
sin.
have to say it anymore.
You don't have to say it anymore. Please do not feel guilty whenever you want coffee, whether it's tomorrow or 3 years from now. I am
Yes.
there for you.
Just let me know.
I love it.
I'll meet you there.
I wanna talk directly to the people that are watching this or listening to this. If you've liked this conversation, you got to go to this
Yeah, please.
the next
come.
event.
Yeah.
You have to go. You have to go to this event. I know that on paper, watching a bunch of people talk about a thing doesn't sound like the most interesting thing.
People say, "Been there, done that."
We've all been to panel discussions where it's like, "Hi, what do you think about this?" Well, I think this is not that. This is
No.
important. It is real. You get to participate as an audience. So talk to me about the next event. What is it? What are we talking about?
So our next one is empathy and tolerance. I love talking about empathy
Mhm.
and tolerance. I like those two together. And so we'll be talking about that. And I don't know, I'm really excited for it. I love how each of these kind of build on each other,
Yeah,
right?
yep.
We talked about societal expectations. Then we have bias and judgment, which can sometimes, those two things can go hand in hand. What we expect from people, and then we're talking about the empathy part.
Yeah.
So
Wow, it does build on each one.
it does.
Wow. Because it's like societal expectations. It's like talking about society, not me necessarily, but like this nebulous thing we call society. What
Yeah.
does society think? What does society want? And then you go to like bias and judgment, subconsciously kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like, well, do I think kind of more this way or this way? Or
Yeah.
what do I think about this person? And then like empathy. And,
The voice
like,
of empathy.
Yeah,
yes.
and then it's like deeper. Like,
Yeah.
do I empathize with other people?
Yeah.
Do I
what
understand?
part do you play in this? And that's the
Yeah.
thing, and that's why it's called including you, right?
Yeah.
That it's easy for us to say society has done this to me.
Yeah.
They're terrible people.
Mhm.
They've made me this way, right?
Mhm.
The way I react and the way I am is because of society.
Yep.
And we touch a little bit about how we have these expectations, but really mostly it's like how has those expectations shaped you?
Yeah.
Right. So it's still a pointing finger thing. And
Yeah.
then the bias and judgment is more of, yes, there is bias and judgment in society. And maybe I've played a part in that,
Mhm.
right? We kind of get into how I've kind of played a part in that. And then empathy and tolerance is a directly you. It's a directly you.
Yeah.
Right? How do you perceive all these things that's happened to you, right?
Mhm.
Are you still able to empathize with the person that has judged you, right? Or set this expectation that may be unrealistic. And again, all this stuff is not always a negative. So some societal expectations are that, if you're pretty, right, based on society standards, you'll get free drinks at the bar, right? That's the expectation that some people go into it. Like, if I just show up pretty enough, smile a little bit,
Yeah,
laugh at
Put
their
on my
jokes,
perfume. Yeah.
yes, that I'll get a couple free drinks, right? And so even trying to go move past that and get a little deeper,
Yeah.
of what we expect of people and what we think if we show up a certain way, what people will give to us. So I love to talk about empathy and tolerance. So, the questions of, are you tolerating people, right? Are you just tolerating them just to get by,
Yeah.
just to get through the meeting?
I love that definition of tolerating.
Yeah.
Because we use tolerance as like a virtue. I am tolerant of people, like a synonym for I am accepting of people.
Yes.
But I love that definition of tolerance. Like,
Yeah.
do I actually care about you, which is empathy,
Yes.
or do I just tolerate you?
Yeah.
Which on the outside, I can look like I do care about you. Oh, I appreciate you. Thanks so much. Oh, I'm so sorry you went through that, all of those things. Meanwhile, in my brain, I'm like, why are they still talking about
Right,
this?
right. Why
Like
are
we're
they
going,
still here?
like I got so much stuff to do, and this person is in my office talking
Yeah.
about their bad day yesterday, and like
Yes.
I could really do without this.
Yes.
Like I'm tolerating
You're
them.
tolerating
I'm
them.
not caring. I'm not intentional about any my interaction with them. I don't empathize. I'm just simply waiting for them to leave.
Because I don't want to be judged for telling them that I don't want to partake in this conversation right now.
Yeah,
right? There is a societal expectation that I'm supposed to keep listening, right?
Mhm.
Even though I don't care. I really don't like you. I don't care, right? That's real, right?
Right.
And so when we dig into the empathy part, that's where we don't care about what society says about what's expected of me. I'm just going to empathize with you, right? I'm going to be human.
Yeah.
And have a heart and care. And it's very interesting because that's why when I so some people that and I know we say panelists for lack of better words, I call them guests, right? The guests that I invite to the table. When I reach out to them, it's some people that I know really well. So I know they know what I expect, which is respect. That's it. Respect. You don't even have to answer all the questions. If you don't feel comfortable talking about something, no problem. But people that I don't quite know as well or don't know me as well, I'm really clear with the expectation that I have for them when they come to the table. And I just want to share, and I won't share the person's name or anything, but there was a person that I had reached out to come to the Bay City this past one.
Yeah.
And I put up a post that I talked about the other, I think. I don't remember. I just be thinking about stuff and write these.
Yes.
And I said that I will always invite the other to the table. And the other that I was talking about in this particular thing that I wrote was people that were conservative and right-leaning. Those are the words that I used. And this person saw that post and contacted me and said, hey, I just got off work. I saw your post about having people on that were conservative and right-leaning, and I have no desire to do that, to share space with people that are, and they use words like, Nazis and all these different words that were, could be perceived as negative words about people. And so, and this is not talking about this person. I just want to show kind of some backstory to the work, right?
Yeah.
And to show how I wasn't mad at all. I was like, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for telling me that, because I would prefer to not have people that don't want to share space. And I'm not telling you to like marry them or go have dinner together, right? But I do expect for us to be able to respect people at the table and their perspective. So I was thankful that that person felt like they were not in the space to do that. I'm okay with that. I would prefer you tell me that as opposed to thinking that you may be able to, and then it become like explosive.
Yeah. Now we're in a situation. Yeah.
Now we're in, and we don't have that.
Yeah, we don't want a situation.
No, we will not have that.
Yeah.
Like that won't happen, right?
Yeah.
So if that seems to be something that's going to happen, then yes, we will make sure that that is diffused, right? And so I appreciate that. So this is not even a negative towards that person. This is a self-awareness.
Yep.
And it's okay.
Yep.
I'm okay with that, because I will always have people that will think differently. And the people on the panel may not even know that person thinks like that. I'm not going to announce it. I'm not going to say, hey, that's the person over there that...
Look at this person who's uncomfortable having a conversation.
Yes.
Because then you turn into the exact opposite of the entire purpose of this work.
This is not to expose or make people feel bad for where they their perspectives and where they come from.
Right.
This is about teaching us as adults to be able to coexist, because we coexist anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the part that people don't realize, is that we are here together anyway. So we have to learn how to be together in a healthy, productive way. And again, it does not mean that you will end that 2 hours and be best friends, but it has happened. People have ended the conversations and became friendly with each other, go out, do things together. One panel we had in Midland just recently, One person is agnostic, atheist, on that, spectrum. Somebody else is Christian, devout Christian, sitting next to each other. The person mentioned that the Christian mentioned, and I'm saying these things for, intentionally.
Yeah.
The Christian mentioned that they help tutor students that can't read, right? With literacy. And the person who was atheist, afterwards, they talked for a while and said, hey, give me more information about that. I would love to do it. Are they friends? I don't know. Were they able to be friendly in that moment despite or in spite of their differences? Yes, because they saw something greater, right? That was above them. And that's the point of all this. This is not just about us.
Mm-hmm.
It is about what is greater than us. And that is us doing good in the world. And it's going to take all of us, even the conservatives, even the liberals. It's going to take all of us to be able to make our communities better. But first, we have to be able to sit in a room together.
Amen. Amen. What's the date of the next event? Where can people buy tickets?
Ooh.
I'll put it in the caption.
Thank you. I mean, I know,
because you'd rather not say something wrong, and then people are like, "I thought it was."
I thought you said it was good.
It was May 2nd. So.
I know. Midland is May 28th, but May. I don't remember.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't.
Okay.
I have
What's
to
your
get that for you.
website?
tbbv.org. So that's T as in Tom, B as in boy, B as in boy, V as in Victor.org.
Okay, so people, if you're listening to this in your car, don't do it while you're driving. When you get to wherever you're going, go to tbbv.org.
Yes.
You'll be able to see the dates in Bay City and in Midland if you want to head over there.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people that have come to both.
Yeah.
But I will say, I want to give a shout out to Bay City. I have to give a shout out because not being from this community.
Yeah.
You all, they have, because you live in Bay City, right?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
I'm a little weird.
You're a little nomadic. It feels like you're just all over.
Saginaw is my community. Bay City's my community. Midland, you're next. Don't worry, I'm coming for you.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Yeah.
So but I just want to thank Bay City for being so receptive and so open, because it has been fantastic. I mean, that was our second show, and each time, I mean, people have just signed up. And many people that were there Tuesday were there the first time.
Yep.
And they said to me, well, didn't you say they build on each other? We're supposed to be. I said, well, yeah, I say things all the time and people don't do it.
Yeah. So, it's a good crew.
Yeah.
Because I did notice like people that were there the first time or there the second time. And so that we have such a great, we've got good humans in Bay City, and I love seeing them at the event. Want to see more good humans at the next event. Let's get more and more people. I love the encouragement. Bring a friend. If you were there on Tuesday, if you're there at the first one, bring a friend, bring 3 friends.
And you can bring your children. Bring your children. I know in Midland, a lot of people have brought their children. And I don't know if people realize that, we don't talk about anything too risque. Children need to also learn how to have these conversations, because they're having them anyway. I mean, the schools, on social media. So, we have to learn.
And they also want to see adults have these conversations.
Healthy.
Because I'm thinking my experience, you're figuring things out, and you don't know what to think, and you don't know who to talk to. And really what I wanted was a good model of how do you talk to people you disagree with.
And they have so much to share. Young people have so much to share.
Yeah.
For our Midland series, when we did it, we had a young person on every panel.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And it was, I mean, some of the stuff they said, I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Right.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
I encourage young people to come.
Heck yeah. Can't wait for the next event. Aaron Patrice, love you, love this work. I want to see 150,000 people at the
just bring a
one.
chair.
Yeah, just bring a chair. We'll fit everybody in there.
We will.
Thank you so much, Bay City. Thank you so much, Aaron Patrice.
And the Bay Area Community Foundation.
Bay Area Community Foundation. You guys rock our socks.
Thank you, Phil.
Heck yeah.
Awesome.